Let's go, baby.
Come on now, I get strong. You get strong. You get strong.
Hey guys.
Yeah.
Done for some deep sea fishing? Crack of dawn Saturday?
Oh, let's go, baby.
What time are you heading back?
We'll be back by dusk.
We're gonna be all right. We're 4 big, strong men.
Well, you can't bench press the ocean.
Look at this haul. This weather is not good.
We gotta wrap it up.
Nicholas, it's Mom. I know you went out fishing this morning. This big storm's supposed to hit. Love you, hon. Bye.
Get back to the boat. I get strong. You get strong. You get strong.
My name's Ansh. I'm with Feature First, and I'm here with Zachary Levi and Nick Schuyler. Schuyler, sorry about that. So, first of all, thank you both for doing this. It's great to meet you all, great to interview y'all. My first question is to Nick. How important was the authenticity of the story and in making the movie, getting it right for you?
It's always been the most important thing. Not just obviously for myself, but most importantly for the guys that had passed and their families, which is hard to do, right? I'm the only one here. But I just thought it was more important to, honor them in the way that they lived, not necessarily the way they passed. And I really believe that Joe, Rick, and team, and Zach, and all the guys really did a good job of doing that.
Zach, how did you work with Nick to embody his himself really in the movie?
I mean, first and foremost, I think that the script really captured, authentically kind of what happened based on the book that Nick wrote. So that's where it has to start. If the script was off the rails and, taking way too many liberties, then we would never be in the right place. When I signed on for the movie, everything kind of happened pretty quickly. I mean, Nick's been working on it basically ever since he wrote the book and it got optioned. And so it's been many years, but by the time it ended up in my lap, then it was happening very rapidly. But fortunately, Nick and I were able to get on the phone and I was able to just kind of pick his brain and heart a little bit and ask him, what was this ordeal like? Like, what were you thinking? What were you feeling? And some of that, as he told me, it was tough for him to even recall because it had happened so long ago and it was very traumatic. But the stuff that he was able to recall and kind of provide to me, then I just try to infuse that as much as I could as an actor. Working out as much as I could to put on the same size, things like that. But ultimately, even when you're playing a real person and they're still alive, you as an actor, you're just trying to make sure that every moment is true, right? We might not speak exactly the same. We might not look exactly the same, but am I being honest with every moment that I'm being given in this script that's coming from the real moments that happened in his story? And that was, that's what I focused on the most.
I heard it took like 16 years to get this movie made. What was that process for you like over all those years? How involved were you?
Yeah, it's been quite the journey. So we're going on 17 years with the actual accident this March. So we did the book about a year out. It was released actually on the date of the accident, 1 year post. And then it's kind of been a whirlwind. There was some financial things that happened with one of the studios, and then we were getting ready to leave shop, and COVID happened, and all the other things that fortunately I didn't have to be a huge part of. The guy Rick French, who represents me since the beginning, has been a massive part of that. So it's been a whirlwind, but we're finally here, and I'm excited. I didn't know how I'd feel tonight. I guess it's still kind of early in that aspect, but I'm ready. Let's say that.
Were you involved at all in like the casting? I know there was a lot of people attached to, like I heard Dwayne Johnson was attached at one point. Miles Teller was supposed to be your role. So were you involved at all?
No, I was not involved. I was a part of the things and some of the tough choices or decisions, but I was able to kind of sit back and kind of watch it unfold over that time period.
What was the collaboration between you two to get that character right? I think you answered it a little bit, but did you like hang out a lot to really understand Nick?
No, I mean, unfortunately, we were living in two very different places in the country. We were able to get on the phone a little bit and just walk through the beats of the story, and again, just trying to understand him more psychologically and emotionally. And then we were fortunate that Nick and Paula were able to come visit us on set. We were well underway at that point. I mean, or at least we were, I would say, probably a week or two weeks, a week and a half to 2 weeks in. So at that point, we were already kind of establishing a cadence and all that. But it's always great to be able to have the real person still be there. It's almost, just kind of even just energetically bless it. Just to be like, I'm here, I see you guys. They were grateful that they got to be there. They were happy with what they were seeing. I mean, from a technical perspective, obviously it's a weird emotional place to be as you're watching actors relive a version of what you went through in real life and what your friends went through in real life. But that was, pretty much the extent of what Nick and I got to collab with. In a perfect world, it would be great if you get attached to a role and you've got a year to go like break bread and hang out and like really get under the skin of somebody. But oftentimes with film, it happens rapidly. I mean, it just happens so fast. And the next thing you know, you're on a flight and you're in Malta and you're getting fitted for wardrobe and you're jumping into it. So
what drew you into the story? Like, were you familiar with the accident and what happened before?
A little bit, yeah. I mean, I remember in 2009, seeing some blips on the news that, these four guys, two of which, I mean, when there's like professional athletes that are involved, obviously there's this thing that kind of makes it a extra newsworthy or whatever. Not that it's not still four human beings and their life and their families and their friends that are affected. But I remember clocking it when it happened and thinking, wow, that is fucking tragic. Like I felt so bad for, what had happened, but I didn't really know much beyond that. And then when I was reading the script, obviously I was, made privy to all of these other details that just made it so much more tragic, to be honest. And ultimately I felt what Nick has always felt, which is the point of being able to tell this story is to honor those guys. They're not here. They don't get to tell that story. And I think that to the extent that we have the ability to honor people after they've passed and to tell their story, at least in part, if you get to be a part of doing that, that's a pretty cool thing.
Nick, what was your emotional experience with the making of this movie? I mean, it must have been like you're reliving your trauma through other people and seeing them go through that and seeing it, on screen. How was that?
It's always difficult, right? It's a super difficult situation. It's something I think about every single day. It comes apart across my mind in one way or another. When I wrote the book, Jerry Lawman was alongside, and that was a surreal experience because I had never really spoke to someone in that fashion or that way, and that was pretty raw after the accident itself. So that was a situation where he came into town and it was almost like a therapy session. I'd sit there for hours and hours and hours of time, and he'd say more and more and more. And there was times I was like, dude, I'm done. I'm exhausted. Like, I'd come home from lunch, for 2 hours and talk about this. And then I'd do it again, that night for 3 hours. And he'd come back again the next day and we do it. So going through that and doing some of the things post book and going through some of those things, it's kind of helped me. So when we got to set, 15 plus years later after that book, again, I don't want to say I knew what to experience, but I had an idea of, okay, you got this, you've been down this road before. Not that, again, it's ever easy. And then dealing with the busyness of it all, there's over 200 people on set, from drivers to janitors, to music, to waves, to actors, to producers, to everything else. So it was busy enough where I could kind of differentiate the two and just kind of take it for what it's worth and watch what was going on set. But it's never easy. It's never an easy situation. It never will be. But I think that the guys and what I saw, up to that point, I was happy with.
I talked to Quentin and Marshall. I talked to Quentin and Marshall earlier, and they described it as when you got to set, you looked out at the boat, and it was 1,000-yard stare. Was it like that for you?
Yeah, I mean, just seeing, again, I knew that this point would be here, or while we were in Malta. So to see it all, come to life and action, you can't really put it into words. You really can't. And having the guys and reenact such a difficult situation, especially when you're dealing with death and friends and going through some of those things, it was tough. It always will be.
My last question is to Zach. Going away from this for a second, something lighter. Zach, do you at all want to be involved in James Gunn's new DCU?
Oh yeah, I mean, listen, I love playing Shazam. It was one of the most fun experiences. I grew up watching Christopher Reeve Superman and Tom Hanks in Big, and I got to be both in one role. And he's such a fun role. I loved my Shazamly, as we affectionately call it. Every one of those actors, young and old. We really shared an awesome experience over 2 films. James and the powers that be said, hey, we would love to bring you back as Shazam, or if there was some other DC character. I love comic books. I've been reading them since I was a kid, and so long as it was something that was like really worthy, like a character or a story is like, oh wow, that's new, or that's different, or that hasn't, that's a flavor that we haven't really seen yet before. Obviously there are so many superhero movies at this point, and so you just want to, that's one of the things I loved about Shazam, is that he was very specifically different than most other superheroes. But yeah, I mean, listen, I think that would be a lot of fun.
Great, that's all I have for you guys. Thank you so much for doing this interview. The film is incredible. I think you guys were really able to honor the memory and the legacy. So thank you guys.
Very much. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it.